When voters came out to the 27th precinct behind me, they hoped to cast their vote in a crucial midterm election. But when they got to the polls this morning, their voice was almost silenced. Volunteers spend days sorting through hundreds of boxes and cans and placing them in their designated spot. All this hard work is worth it to help families in the community. NFL teams around the league are putting their foot down on players kneeling for the national anthem. But the Dolphins say punishing players is harder than it seems. These three candidates have their eyes set on City Hall and the seat occupied by Lauren Poe, who has been the city's mayor since 2016. Large and passionate crowd is expected here behind me at the GRU offices for tonight's meeting. Commissioner David Arreola said he's looking forward to hearing what the people have to say as the City Commission works to resolve these issues. Reporting from Gainesville, Zach Oliveri, WFT News. In the statement being delivered behind me, the message is that hate rhetoric and anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in this community. They hope to unite the community behind a belief in love for all. Nearly 1 year after the eye wall of a Category 5 hurricane crushed Bay County, 6 schools there are still unusable. For the anniversary of Hurricane Michael, I spent time with the Mosley High football team. The school is in Lynn Haven, a town where 80% of buildings suffered major damage. As the city recovers, school and sports are helping bring back a sense of normalcy. 2 words describe Trey Brown's time at Mosley High School.
Life-altering.
As the team's long snapper, Brown protects the team's field goal and extra point attempts. During Hurricane Michael, he had to protect his family and his home.
I had to hold the front door closed because of the hurricane kept barging the door, so water was getting through the door and stuff.
Like many homes in the area, the Browns' home is uninhabitable, forcing the family to move 35 minutes away from the school.
Line it up, line it up, line it up.
Trey's father, Jeremy, who's also the team's head coach, says the long commutes for his teen adds angst, but it's part of their new normal.
Every morning, man, it's just a little bit nerve-wracking until you get to school and you see your son and daughter, like, hey, everything's good, you know, we made it and everything.
It's a common challenge for students throughout Bay County. According to Superintendent Bill Husfeld, 5,500 of the district students were homeless following the storm. Now, the number is at 3,000. Superintendent Husfeld says the impact of Hurricane Michael has also greatly affected students' mental health. 40 students have been Baker Acted less than a quarter of the way through the school year. That's already double their yearly average.
This storm, Michael, did not care if you were white, black, rich, or poor. It just took away everything from everybody in its path. The challenges that people are facing mentally has no barriers.
Athletic Director Josh Vandergrift says sports provides students with an outlet and restores a sense of normalcy.
You see broken trees, blue tarps on roofs, spaces where there used to be homes. Kids live through that day in, day out. Them getting a break from that and coming out here and being able to release all of that energy and not being frustrated, and a lot of times that is a good thing. Sports helps kids release those inner demons, is what we like to call them as coaches. Yeah!
Like most of his teammates, Mosley Junior offensive lineman Adrian Strickland was excited to get back on the field following the storm.
It's hard to see your friends at the hurricane. Those trees blocking roads. It's hard to get around. Once football came, everybody was there, and everybody was like so excited to see each other, especially that first day coming back. It brought everyone's spirits up, and it just made everyone better.
Trey Brown says 1 year later, the storm may have damaged a lot, but it didn't tear this team apart. It brought them closer together.
We set aside Hurricane Michael and just focus on the plays, focus on each other, focus on the team, being a team for each other. Not regretting what happened back then, but moving on and doing what happened now.
As the sun rose in Leesburg, volunteers were rising to the call to action. 25 members of Florida Baptist Disaster Relief met in Leesburg to prepare for a 500-mile trip to the Wilmington, North Carolina area.
We drove up last night and spent the night in one of the units here because I live in Palmetto, Manatee County, so it's about a 2.5-hour drive.
In the early hours of the morning, they were preparing the feeding unit with 5,000 prepared meals on board. The volunteers also loaded 7 trucks with other necessities, plus some equipment capable of clearing storm debris.
We do the hot meal preparation, and then of course along with that feeding complement, we always have our cleanup and recovery guys that go out and do the chainsaw work and do the flood cleanup stuff.
Helping those affected by disasters is a way of giving back for Jody Ross, who nearly died 18 years ago.
I died on the table and God brought me back, and since then I have been doing whatever I can to help.
The act of togetherness here in Leesburg is a prime example of paying it forward. The people who are helping out in Florence Relief know exactly what the people of North Carolina are going through because they were in the same position just 1 year ago.
North Carolina, they were a great asset to us last year with Hurricane Irma, as well as many other states that came, and we're all going back to help them out.
As they begin their journey, they are not only returning a favor, they feel they are answering a higher calling. For 30 years, Jane says she was a popular realtor in Ocala, but she had to give it all up.
I quit working to take care of my mother a few years ago, and it just kind of snowballed on me. And after she passed away, we just ended up like this.
She's been homeless for a year and says every day is a challenge.
It's difficult at times because you never know when you could get arrested. I mean, I've been fortunate that I haven't been.
Jane was just one of the close to 200 people at the First United Methodist Church receiving a weekly Tuesday lunch and other services. These resources are appreciated, but Jane says it isn't enough to meet all needs.
They give services that anyone can make some phone calls and find out about, okay? Do they actually help with shelter? There's not many options out there for shelter.
The city of Ocala and Marion County are both looking to address these needs based on the findings of the Long Way Home study conducted by the Public Policy Institute. The study's chair, Scott Quintel, says housing is one of the top priorities.
Getting folks that are homeless into housing before you address their other needs, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, being able to better manage their dollars and do their budgeting. You get a roof over their head, you get them stabilized, and then you can start to work on the other issues or challenges they face.
With the study's findings, Ocala leaders say the community has to come together to make change.
We just need to listen to what their needs are, to understand what their needs are, and to come back with a response to their needs as to it's going to be more focused on them compared to what we might think as a blanket approach.
For Jane, she has a plan of her own to get her life back on track.
Probably March, but in the meantime, if I get the surgery on my hip and so forth, I can go into a rehab center, nursing home, and be off the streets.
Breaking news, nearly 2 years since being arrested after the Richard Spencer event, Tyler Tenbrink has been sentenced up to 15 years in prison. Tyler Tenbrink's guilty plea to attempted murder is our top story tonight. I'm Zach Oliveri. This Thanksgiving travel season is expected to bring the highest volume since 2005. The reasons are somewhat lower gas prices and the stronger economy. Also elected tonight will be the governor's cabinet, and right now it looks like it will be all Republicans once again. In the race for Attorney General, Republican candidate Ashley Moody received about 52% of the votes. Classic December holiday cheer is being unveiled just in time for Black Friday. Saks Fifth Avenue unveiled its annual holiday windows in New York City yesterday. You could see the 10-story high light show and the first ever digital display that followed the big reveal. Moving on to the U.S. Senate race, most recent numbers show a tight race. Democratic incumbent Bill Nelson has the lead with 51% of the votes, while Rick Scott has 49%.